Hey, how's it going, guys? Today, I want to talk about community. What community means and what the purpose of a community is, you know? Like, why you would have a community in any sense, what the symbolic meaning of a community is. Um, to me, to me, community is important. Now, this is to someone who has never really had a community, you know? I think most people these days don't have a community. I mean, online. And that is kind of what I want to talk about too. Even online, like, people say they have a community. It's not really a community because I don't know how it's based on something trivial. There's not a common movement towards a goal, and I think that in order for it to be a community, it needs to have that common movement towards a goal. If that makes sense, you have to have, you know, likeness and different traits that you share between all the people are obviously all parts of a community, of a society, of a culture. But the common goal aspect, I believe, is one of the main things that's been lost. Now, I'm not to say it's been lost like it was ever really good, because I really don't believe that in this world the way that it is, even in the past, wherever you want to call the past, maybe in a different reality, a different version of this reality, or in a different world altogether aside from this one, there was a sense of community, and the proof of that is that we understand that concept at all. How could we understand the concept if it never existed to begin with? And so, I, I've been watching a few things, and I feel like there's two different sides to the story based on your own subjective opinion. One is that you have to be like completely independent, variable. Don't take anybody else's word for things. Don't trust. Don't. You have to be completely singular in your spiritual awareness and your spiritual growth to where you have like a single path that you have set out for yourself, and that you don't allow anyone else to interfere in it, and everything has to be secret, and everything has to be the certain way. That's not just in black magic and like the occult. It's also in like Christianity, other spiritual religious movements. There's this sort of inclusive attitude that it comes down to you must walk a path alone by yourself in order to see a result, because other people would muddy up that sort of result that you're looking for, and all their ideas will come in, and it's somebody else's idea and their idea and their idea, and by the end of it, their influence on your original intention is so great that the actual end result is nothing like what you had intended it to be. Regardless of what we're talking about here, we could talk about art, we could talk about construction, we could talk about any sort of group project. And in its essence, reality is a group project, in the simplest form. The side of reality that we experience daily, that we interact with, is a group project because it is the sum total equivalency of the entire span of consciousness, human awareness, coming together to a common consensus. And that is the majority of what you see. Now, the bounds of what you as an individual can experience can be much greater than that, but on the whole, when you have to go out, you have to go to work, you have to do things out in the world, at least I do, you will experience that common narrative that has been developed over time, and constantly is evolving. And that kind of singular mindset says to that, well, you want to get as far away from that as possible and stay as far away from it as possible, so that you have the greatest amount of variance in your level of awareness and the greatest amount of flexibility in what you're capable of experiencing. And then the flip side would be, okay, you want a community and you want to have as many people in the group as possible, because more people and more information and more perceptions can lend context, and it can lend, it can make things that you want more materially, it can make them appear, much more concrete, because when other people observe it, they add their attention to it. And while you, as a singular entity, can go outside the bounds of common consensus, and you can move like all the way out in your own little bubble and experience exactly what you want to, it'll never be real in the sense that other people could experience it. And my thought today is that there can be a middle ground. It's not just the whole world, and then after that you have everything that's within your own singular awareness. There's like a middle ground. That's where we live most of the time. And since that is the case, I believe there can be a middle ground in the ideology of like singular spiritual journey versus collective conscious awareness, versus the common narrative versus the singular subjective narrative. There can be a middle ground. And that is what you would classify, you could go and say Christianity as a whole, but that Christianity doesn't mean what it used to in the common narrative, you know what I mean? So you kind of got to take that with a grain of salt. I'm a Christian, self-proclaimed Christian, but what I believe to be Christianity is probably, a lot different than what the common consensus could understand or relate to. But here's my thinking. In the Bible, I won't quote any verses or anything or any passages. I won't make you sit through that, but I'll just summarize it as saying that in order to pray and in order to have church, it classifies it as having two or more individuals within a space. 2 or 3 or more, something like that. Something along those lines. The semantics aren't too important. So, if that's the case, if in order to have church, if in order to have like a realization, a back and forth connection, you have to have another person there, then the singular like awareness and like the singular like religious path can only be for a limited time before you have to bring what you've experienced back into the common consensus and make it real. And I've done that. I've been isolated for most of my life away from anything that can be considered anyone who can understand what I have to say. It's not to say these people were bad or anything, it's just they can't relate to me, So now I believe I'm at the point where I'm ready to take what I've learned and to take what I understand and make it real. And that, to have church, so to say. Church with the world, church with other people, to see what they have to say about what I've learned in my experience. And I believe that's very important, It says in the Bible that we are all members of the body of Christ, both individually and as a whole. And you could take the body of Christ as just the entire conscious awareness. And when you have 2 or more of those conscious awarenesses together, they have a communication. A spiritual communication, a mental communication, a physical communication, communication through language. Communication in general is the entire essence of reality. Your whole manifestation of your reality is a communication between the subjective understanding of it and then the concrete material reality of like the nature of it. So it's like a back and forth. The nature and your subjective understanding are balancing themselves out at all times to develop your own specific awareness and perception. And depending on your focus and strength of awareness, you can have more or less of an effect on that material reality. Because the stronger your awareness is, I believe, the closer you can get to actually manifesting something into it that is specific to your own subjective understanding, rather than, like everything you do is just a want. I would like to do this. You don't know whether it's going to work out or not. You can't tell what's going to happen from one moment to the next. Not really, you know. So you just have to hope things happen. And the more that you focus on it, the more likely it is that things will come to manifest, the more attention that you spend on it. So, okay. What was the point of all this? The point of all this is I want to bring up like this online space, like YouTube, like the people that I've met on here. I've met Ben from Bat City through email, Gary Warmerdam through email, and through comments and stuff. And I've met a few other people on here that I've had experiences with, that were on the whole positive, mostly positive. The beginning was a little rough, but after I started really making videos for a while and I met some good people now, things are starting to pick up. And so my whole goal, with people like Gary, people like Ben, meeting these people and trying to engage with them and trying to constantly keep communicating and passing information back and forth as much as possible. The whole goal behind that, the whole purpose of it. See my gold cup. My dad got this for me. It's cool, huh? Anyway, the whole purpose of it is, I think in a vague sense, we all have a common goal. Even though this person might not be a Christian, or this person might not be this, or we not exactly believe the exact same things, I believe on a subconscious level we all have the same goal, and we are moving towards that goal. And I think the more communication that there can be had, and the more getting to know people that there can be had, and to kind of mesh the two realities together, it's like building a structure. Like you put one brick on top of the other brick on top of the other brick, and it all starts to sustain each other. And while each person can still have their own subjective reality and their own agenda, as a group, if you can't communicate and resolve misunderstandings and resolve miscommunications and resolve the barrier between each other a little bit more and more, I believe that as a community, whatever we have going on here, whatever you want to call us, I believe it's beginning to coalesce. It really is, at least in my experience. I mean, maybe it already has. Maybe I'm just new to the game. That's entirely possible, and that's good if that's the case. I want to help with that. I want to help coalesce it, and I believe I possess the communication abilities and the wherewithal to do that. That's what I bring to the table, I think. It's going to take time to develop it, to get people, to get to know people, and to put out content and prove that I have something of worth to bring, because everybody has to bring something to the table. And I'm still finding out exactly what that is. I mean, like I just said, like communication, I think is part of it for me. I'm very persistent, and I'm very attentive to other people, online, in real life, etc. I want to keep track of it, and maybe I'm a little overbearing sometimes. I got to work on that, I admit. But on the whole, I think that's a positive trait. I don't think it's a negative trait. Even if people don't email me back all the time, or they don't have anything to say, still being there for them, still reaching out and being someone that they can talk to and communicate with. And I will say this to anyone that's watching, to anyone that watches my videos or wants to communicate with me. I'm a completely open book. You can email me. I'll talk to you on the phone. I'll talk to you over video call. Comment on the videos. I'll make a video like with you. I'll make a video about you. I'll make a video about an idea that you have. I just want to make the goal real. And I believe my walk alone is over for now. I believe the isolation is over for now. I want to come back into the tribe, I want to come back into the body of Christ, and I'm ready to fulfill my purpose. And if anyone out there, like I said, wishes to, build a community like me, which I think pretty much most people would agree with that to some extent. And if you do agree with that, hit me up, hit me up. Let's get a thing going. Let's really try to do something. Cause I'm trying my best, I really am trying my best. Maybe I'm too honest with people, or I'm too this or too that, but that can be worked on, And I really appreciate everybody who watches. I really appreciate everybody who's commented and liked the videos. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you to Gary for talking about my channel. Thank you to Ben for all the videos he puts out. Ben from vat_city. That's in YouTube. You search it up, vat_city. Okay, I cannot recommend his stuff enough. Og Tellez too. Healing AUG, Healing Aug, like Healing August, but without the UST. That's another one that Gary recommended to me. That's really great. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hit me up in the comments if you want my email or whatever, and I'll leave it in the comment. If you want to know anything about me, or want to know anything about how I feel about something, I'm always open in the comments or wherever. So let me know. I really appreciate you guys. Bless you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, rest of your night, and the rest of your life if I never speak to you again. We appreciate you, and I hope you have a good night.